When you close your front door at night, turn the deadbolt, and just listen to the quiet hum of your air conditioner, there's this really profound illusion of absolute security.
Oh, absolutely. We desperately want to view our homes as these impenetrable fortresses.
Right. You look at your solid brick walls and you feel perfectly safe, completely unaware that a gap the size of a quarter on your roofline is currently serving as a superhighway for a colony of roof rats.
Yeah, that quarter-size gap is all it takes. It really shatters that peace of mind.
Exactly. You think to yourself, I am inside and nature is outside. It feels like this clean, permanent border.
But the biological reality of where we build our houses tells a completely different story.
It really does. When you actually start looking into the mechanics of home maintenance and local ecology, that clean line between inside and outside just completely dissolves.
It's gone.
Yeah. We're not actually living in fortresses. We are basically living on the front lines of this ongoing silent turf war between human architecture and wildlife. So, today's deep dive is all about the mechanics of that turf war.
It's a fascinating topic.
It really is. We are pulling apart a stack of service documents, operational protocols, and company profiles from a commercial wildlife removal company called the Critter Team. And they're based in Humble, Texas.
Right, up in Northeast Harris County.
Yep. Our mission today is to explore how this highly tactical, almost military-grade approach to animal control is completely reshaping how we handle uninvited furry or scaly house guests.
What really stands out in these operational documents isn't just the sheer variety of animals breaching residential homes. I mean, anyone who's lived near a wooded area knows a squirrel can eventually find its way into an attic.
Oh, sure. They're relentless.
They are. But what is truly revealing here is the highly specialized biology, the intricate construction knowledge, and, well, the rigorous methodologies required.
To not just get them out, but keep them out.
Exactly. To safely extract the animals and then re-engineer the home so they never get back in. It's a highly scientific, multidisciplinary endeavor.
So let's unpack the foundation of this company, because their background really sets the stage for why this specific approach is so necessary. The Critter Team was founded back in 2015 by Mike Garrett.
Who is a military veteran.
Right, a military veteran.
Yeah.
And when you read through their service standards, that military background seems to, directly inform every logistical choice they make.
It's very structured.
Very. This isn't just a guy showing up in an unmarked pickup truck with a rusty wire cage and a jar of peanut butter.
No, not at all. They operate as a fully insured commercial wildlife control business. And a key detail here is they utilize strictly in-house employees.
Meaning absolutely no subcontractors.
Right, because using standard pest control for a wildlife issue is, it's like bailing water out of a leaky boat without ever patching the hull.
Yeah, you might catch one mouse, but you haven't fixed the quarter-size hole in the soffit letting the rest of the colony inside.
Exactly. And reading through Mike Garrett's operational standards, it reads much more like a tactical deployment aimed at solving that root vulnerability.
Standard pest control is inherently reactive. Right?
Oh.
It's temporary.
Very much so. The pest control industry model is often built on recurring subscriptions, spraying chemicals every quarter to manage a symptom.
Just treating the symptom over and over.
Right. But what we are analyzing here with the Critter Team is a comprehensive strategic operation designed to permanently sever the vulnerability.
I do want to push back on something, though.
Okay, sure.
Because, any industry can dress up its services with impressive-sounding titles. When I look at their corporate credentials, they really highlight holding the NWCOA BAT Standard certification.
The National Wildlife Control Operators Association.
Yeah, that's the one. And they've also completed the Specialized Wildlife Control Operators course, and they hold this RidgeGuard Certified Installer status.
Right.
So as someone outside the wildlife industry, I just have to ask, are credentials like the NWCOA BAT standards actually biologically necessary? Or is this just fancy paperwork meant to justify premium pricing to a panicked homeowner?
Well, that is a highly practical question. But if we connect these certifications to the actual biology of the animals involved, they become absolutely vital.
Really? How so?
Let's examine that bat certification. Handling bats isn't just about swinging a net around in a dark attic. Bat biology and their ecological patterns are incredibly complex.
Okay.
First off, bats are heavily protected species in Texas.
Because of the mosquitoes, right?
Yes, due to their critical role in the local ecosystem, specifically regarding agricultural insect control. You cannot legally or safely just exterminate a colony.
Wow. Oh.
Furthermore, an entire colony's survival depends on highly specific roosting cycles and maternity seasons.
Maternity seasons, so like when they have babies.
Exactly. If a wildlife operator doesn't deeply understand that biological timeline, they might seal an entry hole while the adult bats are out foraging at night. Yeah, completely unaware that they just trapped dozens of flightless baby bats inside the attic.
Which means those babies just starve to death inside the homeowner's
That's
walls.
precisely. Which is
Oh,
not only illegal and highly unethical, but it results in a massive rotting biohazard for the homeowner.
that sounds like a total nightmare.
It is. So the NWCOA certification dictates that the operator has undergone rigorous, scientifically backed training to understand the exact life cycle of the species, the seasonal safe handling protocols, and the specific architectural techniques required to exclude them legally.
Okay, so the bad standard makes perfect sense. I get that now. But what about the construction side? What actually is a Ridgeguard certified installer? Because that sounds like a roofing term, not an animal control term.
It is a structural term, yeah. And it's a perfect example of where biology meets engineering. Most modern roofs have ridge vents.
That's the gap at the top, right?
Right, a gap left at the very peak of the roof to allow hot air to escape the attic. Builders usually cover this gap with a standard plastic vent.
Sure, makes sense.
However, in the intense Texas heat, that plastic warps, creating small openings. And squirrels and roof rats can easily chew through that compromised plastic and just march right into the attic.
Oh, wow. So they just eat right through the warped plastic.
Basically, yeah. So Ridgeguard is a highly specialized, heavy-duty, powder-coated steel mesh system. It's designed to permanently lock down that ventilation gap without restricting the airflow.
Okay.
But installing it requires precise, specialized training so that it conforms perfectly to the specific pitch and shingle style of the roof. If it's installed incorrectly, an animal will simply pry it up.
So that structural expertise clearly pays off. I mean, according to the source material, the Critter team won the 2018 Animals Happen Excellence Award for their work across Harris, Montgomery, and Liberty counties.
Yeah, they rank among the best in the nation for bat removal, armadillo trapping, squirrel control, and roof rat removal.
That specific geographical footprint, Harris, Montgomery, and Liberty counties, is crucial to understand, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The sheer variety of threats homeowners face in Northeast Harris County is staggering. It is a highly active, rapidly transitioning biological zone.
The Texas menagerie they're dealing with is just wild. Let's actually circle back to that roof rat detail from earlier, because understanding the mechanics of how they operate honestly gave me shivers.
They are impressive creatures.
The documents note that roof rats are incredibly common in the Humble area. And we mentioned they can squeeze through a gap the size of a quarter.
Yes.
How is that even biologically possible? I mean, a rat is significantly larger than a quarter.
It's a biomechanical marvel, really. A rat's skeletal structure is uniquely adapted for compression. Their collarbones are unfused, and their rib cages are connected with highly flexible cartilage.
So they just squish down.
Essentially, their skull is the only limiting factor. If they can fit their skull through a quarter-sized opening, they can temporarily collapse their rib cage, compress their internal organs, and pull the rest of their body right through the gap.
That is horrifying.
It is. Finding a hole the size of a quarter 20 feet up on a dark, shadowed roofline requires an operator with a highly trained eye, someone who knows exactly how these animals exploit microflaws in human architecture.
And roof rats are just the beginning of the list, right?
Absolutely.
The Critter team regularly deals with venomous snakes like copperheads, cottonmouths, rattlesnakes, just casually sheltering in suburban garages and sheds.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, and they deal with armadillos that literally undermine the structural foundations of concrete sidewalks and driveways.
Yeah.
Because they're just relentlessly digging for grubs.
Yeah.
And, of course, skunks, which bring the obvious odor, but they also carry rabies and love to excavate dens right under porches.
And what remains consistent across all these different species in the Critter team's protocols is their strict adherence to humane methods. Specifically, a process they call live exclusion.
Let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Because we need to look at this from a purely practical, frustrated homeowner standpoint. I know humane removal sounds warm and fuzzy, but if a colony of roof rats is destroying your insulation, isn't it just faster, cheaper, and more efficient to use traditional extermination methods?
You mean poisons and kill traps?
Yeah. Why not just bring in the commercial poison, set the kill traps, and just be done with it?
Well, that approach actually creates a far more expensive and dangerous catastrophe for the homeowner. Let's play out that extermination scenario. You deploy poison to handle a colony of roof rats. The rats ingest the poison. What physically happens next?
Well, they crawl away and die.
Yes, but where do they go to die? Poison makes rodents incredibly thirsty and lethargic.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah. They retreat deep into their nesting areas, inside your wall voids, under your inaccessible floorboards, or buried beneath 3 feet of fiberglass attic insulation.
Ugh.
Now you have a dozen rotting carcasses sealed inside your home's architecture. Within days, the odor becomes completely unlivable.
Oh, that's disgusting.
The decaying bodies attract secondary pests like blowflies and carrion beetles, which then infest the living spaces, and the bodily fluids from the decomposition will literally seep through and ruin your drywall.
Okay, that is an absolute nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
I really hadn't considered the physics of where the extermination actually takes place.
And the risks compound. Suppose a poisoned rat wanders out into the yard in a disoriented state before it dies.
And a pet finds it.
Exactly. A neighborhood dog or a domestic cat consumes it. Now you have a massive secondary poisoning emergency. Live exclusion isn't just an ethical choice. From a structural and practical standpoint, it is the only permanent solution.
So walk me through the actual physical mechanics of live exclusion. How do you get a colony of bats or rats out without touching them?
It relies on devices like one-way excluder cones or funnel doors.
Like a literal funnel.
Yes. Imagine a smooth, plastic, cone-shaped funnel placed directly over the animal's primary entry hole on the outside of the house. The operator seals every other secondary gap on the entire roof. When the bats or rats leave at night to forage for food, they crawl down the wide end of the funnel and drop out the narrow tip.
Right.
But when they return hours later, their wingspan, or the rat's lack of grip on the smooth plastic, makes it physically impossible for them to navigate backward up into that tiny, suspended opening.
Oh, wow.
They are locked out by simple gravity and geometry.
Okay, I definitely see the genius in that mechanism. But here's another challenge. If we are doing live exclusion and just pushing these rats or raccoons back out into the yard, are we just making them the neighbor's problem?
That's a common concern.
Yeah, how does exclusion actually solve the territorial issue?
It solves your home's structural vulnerability, which is the only variable you can actually control. Wildlife exclusion operates on the principle of path of least resistance.
Makes sense?
These animals are seeking shelter. Once your home is mathematically sealed and fortified with materials like ridgeguard, the animals will disperse. They will either return to natural habitats or seek out an unfortified structure.
Gotcha.
But the critical difference is that you have permanently removed your property from the local ecosystem's menu of available habitats. Poisons don't fix the quarter-sized hole in the soffit.
Right, the door's still open.
Exactly. If you kill the current residents but leave the door open, a new colony simply moves in next month.
That really speaks to the urgency and responsiveness needed in this industry. There's this customer anecdote in the sources that perfectly captures the logistical reality of these encounters.
The snake call.
Yes, a customer called with an emergency snake situation at 7:30 p.m. Now, discovering a venomous snake inside your property at 7:30 at night is a high-stakes scenario.
Highly dangerous.
Most traditional businesses are closed. But Mike Garrett arrived immediately, and by 9:30 p.m., the snake was successfully and safely captured. 2 hours from sheer panic to total resolution.
That kind of rapid tactical response is critical for physical safety. Navigating a startled, cornered cottonmouth in a cluttered garage is not a scenario where a homeowner should be experimenting with DIY methods.
Absolutely not. So we've covered the complex mechanics of getting the animals out and keeping them out. But reading through these operational documents, I realized that removing the animal is barely half the battle.
Right. The job isn't done yet.
This brings us to phase 2 of the deployment. The unseen aftermath, biological decontamination, and restoration.
This is exactly where the biological realities of wildlife intersect heavily with indoor air quality and construction. The removal is merely phase 1.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is mitigation and defense against what the animals left behind.
Think of it like this. Imagine discovering a burglar broke into your house while you were on vacation.
Okay.
But instead of sealing your television, they decided to completely remodel your attic, ruin your insulation, chew through your home's electrical wiring, and just leave a massive toxic biohazard in your ceiling.
That's a very accurate comparison.
Do you think the average homeowner completely underestimates this second phase of wildlife removal?
Without a doubt. It is human nature to focus all our anxiety on the immediate visible threat. The raccoon glaring at you from the attic hatch.
Right, the scary thing you can see.
Once the raccoon is removed, the homeowner feels an immediate sense of relief. But the microscopic threats left lingering in the insulation are often far more dangerous to the family's long-term health than the animal itself.
Let's examine those microscopic threats because the service breakdown lists some genuinely terrifying health hazards. We discussed bats earlier. Bat guano, their droppings, often carries spores for a fungus called histoplasmosis. How
Yes.
does that actually affect a homeowner?
Well, histoplasmosis is a severe respiratory disease. The fungal spores thrive in the nutrient-rich guano.
Okay.
If a homeowner goes up into their attic a month later to check on some stored holiday decorations and accidentally steps on or sweeps up that dried guano without wearing commercial-grade, full-face particulate respirator.
Food Joanne has in their closet.
Exactly. Those microscopic spores become airborne. Once inhaled deep into the lungs, the fungus begins to grow, causing an infection that closely mimics severe pneumonia.
Man. And it's not just bats. The documents note that raccoon feces frequently contain roundworm eggs.
Yes, very common.
If those eggs dry out, become airborne, or are accidentally tracked down into the living spaces on someone's shoes, ingesting them can cause severe neurological damage in humans, particularly in small children who play on the floor.
It's incredibly dangerous.
And then there is the severe physical destruction to the house itself. Squirrels don't just sleep in your attic, they actively dismantle it. Why do they chew through everything?
Rodents have incisors that never stop growing. To keep their teeth filed down, they are biologically compelled to gnaw constantly.
Oh, so they have to chew.
Right. To a squirrel in an attic, electrical wiring mimics the texture of a small twig. They will gnaw right through the plastic casing, exposing the live copper wire.
Which is a huge fire hazard.
Instantly creates a massive hidden fire hazard buried under highly flammable insulation. And they're also incredibly strong. Raccoons can literally tear through asphalt shingles and wooden roof decking with their bare claws to gain entry.
Which explains why the critter team's approach to attic restoration has to be so heavily engineered. They don't just go up there with a broom and a dustpan.
Oh no!
The protocol involves deploying commercial-grade attic vacuums. These aren't just large shop vacs. These are massive truck-mounted machines with huge hoses that suck all the contaminated insulation out of the attic entirely.
Creating negative pressure.
Right, so none of those toxic spores or roundworm eggs blow down into the home's HVAC system. Following the extraction, they perform professional chemical sanitization, specialized odor treatment to remove pheromones that might attract other animals, and finally, the installation of brand new insulation.
This extensive, multi-step process really highlights the critical importance of selecting a unified service provider.
What do you mean by unified?
Well, if a homeowner hires a trapper to remove a squirrel, then hires a separate roofer to patch the hole, and then brings in an HVAC or insulation specialist to clean the attic.
They're opening themselves up to immense liability and a massive scheduling headache. It's
Exact.
the classic contractor blame game.
Precisely. If the squirrel manages to get back inside, the trapper blames the roofer for a shoddy patch job, and the roofer blames the trapper for not ensuring all the animals were out before sealing it up.
Round and round we go.
By operating as a comprehensive turnkey service with in-house employees, a company like the Critter Team completely eliminates that friction. They take full, unified accountability for the safe removal, the biological decontamination, and the structural reengineering.
And they actually put that accountability in writing. The sources emphasize that they use heavy-duty, commercial-grade exclusion materials specifically designed to resist animal chewing and clawing, to seal roof returns, gable vents, and foundation openings.
Built to last.
Yeah. All of that custom exclusion work comes backed by a written warranty. There's another great customer anecdote in the file. A homeowner contracted them for a massive bat removal project.
Oh, I read this one.
The Critter Team didn't just exclude the bats, they managed the entire biohazard cleanup, replaced the materials, and even completed the touch-up exterior painting so the home looked untouched. The entire complex operation was completed within 3 weeks.
It is a profound shift in mindset. You are moving away from the outdated concept of pest control and stepping into the realm of structural wildlife exclusion and property restoration.
Now, to ground all of this biological theory and structural engineering into something highly actionable, we need to talk about logistics and geography.
Very important.
When you are dealing with a biological timeline, like a frightened rattlesnake trapped in the garage at 7:30 p.m., or a raccoon actively tearing through your roof decking before a rainstorm, geography basically dictates your options. time is of the essence.
Because nature operates on a relentless 24-hour clock. The animals don't care about the weekend.
They really don't, which is precisely why their logistical setup is so critical. The Critter team provides 24/7 emergency response, offering same-day or next-day service for most high-stakes situations.
Right.
And to execute that kind of rapid deployment, they're headquartered centrally right in Humble, Texas. Let me actually pull up the exact details. Their physical staging ground is located at 6942 FM 1960 Road East, Suite 211, Humble, TX 77346.
Operating from that central FM 1960 location allows their tactical teams to deploy rapidly across a very specific high-need service area.
And that footprint covers a really wide net of Northeast Harris County. From that humble headquarters, they are quickly accessing Atascocita, Kingwood, Crosby, Porter, and Huffman.
A lot of rapid growth in those areas.
Tons of growth. They're servicing specific fast-growing neighborhoods like Summerwood, Eagle Springs, Fall Creek, Lakeshore, Walden, Oakhurst, Kings Manor, and River Grove, alongside the greater Houston metropolitan area.
It's a massive coverage zone.
It is. If you live anywhere in that northeast footprint and you hear the unmistakable sound of scratching inside your walls at 2.8 a.m., keeping their local dispatch number programmed in your phone is huge. That number is 281-667-0171.
Because every hour counts.
It's the difference between an immediate calculated resolution and a weekend of catastrophic property damage. So again, that logistical lifeline is 281-667-0171.
As we discussed with the roof rats, a small, quarter-sized gap today easily becomes a fully entrenched maternity colony by next month. The speed of the response dictates the scale of the damage.
So as we synthesize everything we've uncovered in today's deep dive, the core takeaway is clear. Protecting your home from wildlife requires significantly more than just setting a wire trap with a piece of bait.
Much more.
It requires a profound understanding of animal biomechanics, real structural engineering capabilities, and the highly disciplined tactical execution you would expect from a veteran-led operation like Mike Garrett's team. Being a well-informed homeowner means recognizing the ecological reality of where you live. You aren't existing in an isolated, sterile bubble. You share a perimeter with an ancient, highly adaptable ecosystem.
And when nature inevitably decides to test that perimeter, you need a team that understands how to push back scientifically.
And acknowledging that shared perimeter leaves us with a necessary, perhaps slightly uncomfortable reality to consider, doesn't it?
It does. We spent a lot of time discussing how these animals are invading our homes. But when we look at the rapid suburban sprawl, the massive housing developments, and the paving over of natural wooded areas across places like Northeast Harris County...
The animals are just trying to survive.
Exactly. The ecological truth is that we have aggressively built our homes right in the middle of their traditional hunting and roosting habitats.
Well, that's a good point.
The animals aren't being malicious. They are simply adapting to the artificial caves and wooden forests we erected in their backyards. Recognizing that dynamic makes highly specialized, humane exclusion services not just a structural convenience for a homeowner, but a true practical obligation to the ecosystem we disrupted.
That reframes the entire turf war. The next time you close your front door, turn that deadbolt and listen to the air conditioner hum. Take a long look up at your ceiling. Remember that the line between human architecture and the wild Texas ecosystem isn't a solid brick wall.
No, it's not.
It's an active, porous border, and keeping that border secure takes rigorous science, brilliant engineering, and a profound respect for the creatures adapting on the other side.